Om Shanti. This year, we had decided that instead of having the separate group retreats, we would specifically focus on silence retreats. And I know that the groups who've been here before you have told us that they much appreciated that. And I'm sure that must be the same for all of you. Is that right? Yes? Okay. Because one of the things that we don't get when we're out there on the field of service is a chance for so much silence. And even when we have silence retreats that we organize at the center, it's not always to participate fully, or if you're one of the organizing team, then you're busy with that, and so it doesn't happen. But here in Madhuban, an opportunity to really deepen the experience of yoga. And I want to take it up in two parts. One, the preparation that enables us to be able to have powerful, deep yoga. And then secondly, the practices that Baba has taught us to deepen our experience of yoga. And the first part, and although for some of you it might be basic A, B and C, but it's okay. I think it's important to underline those things because it very definitely has a very powerful impact on our yoga. One of the things that Baba always comments on is that for us it's not just an exercise of yoga, and that it's half an hour, 45 minutes or however long it is, but it's actually a yogi way of life. And so our way of life and our yoga are very deeply connected. And so whatever it is I'm doing through the whole day, then that's going to determine the quality of my yoga at any point, and especially Amrit Vela. On one of the flights that I was on recently, I was looking for the moving map. Most aircraft now have these screens and you can choose what it is you want to do. And one of the choices is always the moving map. And what I like to do is to see that. And not just for the logistical information about where you're going and how far you're going and how far you've reached, but also just that awareness that if I'm looking even on the map, because you're up in the clouds and so you can't see what's on the ground, but when you're up in the clouds and you're seeing the moving map, then you see which are the countries that you're passing through. And it's always lovely to send yoga vibrations to those places, even though you're not actually physically visiting there, but you can send your yoga vibrations from up there, and it's very powerful. I was looking for the moving map, and I couldn't find it, in the sense that it was there, but it just kept saying, please wait, and it did this for 20 minutes, so how long are you going to please wait? And so I thought, well, is the whole thing working or not? So I tried a few other buttons, and they were working. And I saw a glimpse of some movie, and I don't know the beginning, middle or end of it, but literally I just saw 10 seconds of that movie. And it was a horrific sight. And I very, very quickly pressed the button to move on. And I thought to myself, imagine there are people who sit and watch these things for an hour and a half or several hours, one after another. And what is the impact going to be on their mind? And not very healthy and not very conducive to yoga, that's for sure. But also probably very, very prone to nightmares. You see these things and it creates all those images and impact in your mind, and it's going to come up at some point in some way, whether it's very deep in your unconscious or your subconscious, wherever, but it's going to reflect, maybe in your thoughts during the day, maybe in your dreams at night. So it underlined for me this whole subject of what Baba's been talking about. And I think yesterday I read a different Murli in Karachi to the one that was read here. For some reason there was a mix-up. But there's a particular Murli, and I'm sure it's going to come up here. Satsang, company with the truth. And satsang doesn't just mean sitting in a holy gathering. Yes, that's the word that is normally used there. But satsang, what is the company I keep? Am I aware of the influence of that company? And again, today's Murli, very much that. Who is it I'm seeking company with? And what is the influence that this is having on me? And of course, Baba today was very specific. Make sure you don't have company of those who gossip. Make sure you don't have company of those who criticize. Make sure you don't have company of those who are going to lead you down waste thoughts. But just that awareness of what are the influences that I'm exposing my intellect to. And as I become aware of that, and I make sure I protect myself from any other negative influences, definitely my yoga is going to deepen. And so I thought that that was a very, very major factor in being able to see to what extent I can develop my yoga and increase my yoga deeply. And so all the pillars that Baba has described for us of yoga, the practice of purity, and of course it's not just celibacy, but the practice of purity in that sense of being able to see each one as a being of light, as a soul. And really, just that awareness of no preferences, no preference for this one, I like this one, I don't like this one. And it's such a normal thing that we have in life, normal. We think it's absolutely normal to say, well, I like so-and-so's company. Or the other side, well, I don't like so-and-so's company. And we think that's fine. But no, it's an indication that my attention is being drawn to a particular individual. And so, really, soul consciousness, and I'm seeing the soul in each one, and I'm not being drawn by anything else at all. In fact, last year, one of the signs of soul consciousness that Daddy had described had been the fact that if I say I like, then it's not soul conscious, it's body conscious. And how often do we use this expression? Food. I like this. I don't like this. And so what is it that's making me say this? So long as it's sattvic, so long as it's going to be beneficial for mind and body, then where does the term like or don't like come in? It comes in because of the preference of my taste, my tongue. And so what happened to the conquest of the physical senses through yoga power, or even the practice of going beyond the senses through yoga power, is just not there. And I don't even realize it. So it happens with food, it happens with clothes, it happens with places, it happens with people. And so any time this preference is coming in, it's actually an indication that I'm not practicing soul consciousness. And without the foundation of soul consciousness, how is it going to be possible to be God conscious? never mind deepening the relationship with God, even just beginning to establish the relationship with God. It hasn't actually happened, because still my eyes, my ears, my taste, all of those things are still pulling me into body consciousness. And even after years of practice of yoga, it's still a common expression we hear from Brahmins: I like, I don't like. And so very interesting that that one aspect is a major aspect of moving towards deepening my relationship with God. A second factor, again connected very much with satsang, and even a little bit this like and dislike, but there are people who I listen to and I give it a lot of emphasis and importance, and probably because I like them, I like their personality, and so I enjoy their company. But the reality is that whoever it is I'm spending time with, and I'm listening to the things that they're saying, and I like the things that they're saying, but the question is, what is it that they're saying? Is it bringing me closer to God? Or is it that I'm simply appreciating that individual? And you can see what's going to happen. If they're bringing me closer to God, then yes, definitely my yoga is going to improve. But if it's simply that I like them, then it's not going to be possible to come closer to God. And the other way is also true. Where it is I don't like somebody, then that person is still having an influence on me. You know, one of the statements that he often makes is this expression of lagav, jugav, prabhav. You heard these terms. And some of you understand what these terms mean, but I'll just quickly translate them for those who don't speak Hindi. Lagav, attachment, well, that's pretty clear. That's going to take me away from God. Jugav, where I'm subservient to somebody. I think I'm receiving something from them. And internally, it's not a physical thing, but internally, I'm accepting that they are greater than me, that they have a higher stage than me, or I put them on a pedestal. And so I become subservient to them. And so who am I going to remember? Is it going to be the one who's my real boss? Or is it the one who's my line manager? Who's the one who's just ahead of me and is influencing me? Or is it that I'm going to actually be influenced, prabhav, I'm going to be influenced by them? And again, you can see that where there's a challenge of sanskars, a little bit of a conflict or clash going on with somebody, then yes, definitely, I am under their influence. Just for a moment, I become soul conscious. And I remember Baba. And it's Baba's influence on me. And now here's a person, and I'm not getting on very well with them for whatever reason, but equally they are having an influence on me. It's not Baba that's influencing me anymore. It's this human being who's influencing me. And when it's this human being who's influencing me, then who am I going to remember? Is it going to be Baba, or is it going to be this person? And within that too, the situation where Baba is telling me I have to become bodiless and remember myself as just the soul, and remember God as just the point of light, so that there are no human images, either my own image or any other images that come in the way. It's I, the incorporeal, connected with God, the incorporeal, so that then truly that connection can be made with God. And I'm influenced by somebody because I don't like them, I don't get on with them, but I'm influenced by that individual whose face is going to come in my mind's eye. It's not going to be the bodiless one, Shiv Baba. It's going to be this human being whose image is there in my mind. Maybe not in a gross way so that I see their face, but definitely in a subtle way, in that I'm remembering them in some form or another. And so any type of influence of human being, and it's not satsang, it's not company with the truth, it's company of that human being, either seeing their goodness and liking them, or not seeing their goodness and disliking them. And so one of the things about purity that Baba's talked about is where really truly I've cleaned out whatever is in my heart, and there's nothing but good wishes for them. The cleaning process means that there's no other feelings that stay. And if there's one individual with whom there's feelings that are not so good, that's poison. And a drop of poison is going to spoil everything that's there within my awareness. If I think about my intellect as a container, and it's not a physical container, the soul is just a tiny point of light, but it's a useful model to look at. So if my buddhi, my intellect, is a container, which is a receptacle to hold Baba's knowledge, then within that knowledge, here's a drop, a tiny little drop of poison, a feeling of dislike against an individual, then what's going to happen to the nectar that's Baba pouring into my intellect? One drop of poison, and that's enough. And so for my own health, spiritual health, emotional health, and well-being, I need to make sure that I've worked on myself internally so that I've cleaned out whatever other feelings there may be that are still there. Somebody told me a little while ago that there was something that had happened in October, and when they remembered that scene, it still brought tears to their eyes. Now imagine, something happened in October, and still today, it's now the end of March, so it's many moons ago, at the end of March, there's still that feeling of pain and sorrow, remembering that particular situation. And so, how long has the soul not been able to take power from Baba through yoga? It's been all that space of many, many months. And so to be very careful of whose company I keep externally. There are some people who just say, but I want to share some information. And in Sunday's Murli, Baba very neatly pointed out that no, it's not information that is useful for you. You don't need to be spending time listening to rubbish and saying that yes, so-and-so needed to empty their hearts, and so I became the dustbin in which they dumped all the rubbish that was going on inside. And I don't need that. And so to be careful of satsang and connected with that very much, the purity. So the vision of purity of each soul, but not just seeing each one as a soul, but also seeing each one with the goodness that there is within them. When I see you, and you, and you, am I able to focus on the goodness of the soul? It's an experiment to try. Really, just keep checking yourself. Whoever it is I see, A, am I able to see them as soul? And B, am I able to see the goodness that is there within the soul? And so that vision of purity is definitely going to help me come closer to Baba. The third pillar that we talk about, so one pillar is purity, the other pillar is satsang. The third pillar that we talk about always is the divine virtues, the inculcation. And again, it's absolutely true that if through the day there's been not even anything gross in terms of anger, well, anger definitely. What's been the impact of anger? It's drained me of my energy, physical energy. You feel depleted after having had an explosion, but it's also drained me of my spiritual energy. It's taken me a long time to accumulate that energy from Baba, drop by drop by drop. And when anger comes, it's not drop by drop that it goes. The tap is turned and the whole thing comes gushing away. So energy that took me, I don't know, maybe weeks to accumulate, one explosion of anger, and all that work of several weeks is lost. But then the other thing that happens, if there's anger, then of course the relationships and the atmosphere are spoiled, and the burden of that is also something then that I carry. This is what I did, and this is the return of that. And so anger is an easy one to explain. But anything else on a subtle level even, maybe I've been sharp with somebody, maybe I've been not as polite as I should be, maybe I've been true, what I've said is the truth, but maybe I haven't been sweet in the way that Baba wants me to be sweet. So all of these things about divine virtues and to what extent I practice those, keeping them in my awareness, or I've forgotten about them and I've gone off in another direction. And so all of these things also very definitely, they either help my yoga if I'm giving it that attention, or they take away my yoga. And so, well, you know, during the day I haven't had time to reflect, but when I sit in yoga, if there's things that I've done that are out of line from Srimad, then that is a time when that image, that memory is going to come up very, very strongly. And so, are you having yoga at that time? I don't think so. It's definitely something that's an outside influence that's affecting me. But it's my karma, my lack of divinity, divine virtues, that made it happen. But that's what's going to come up. And so, just to be aware that my behavior through the day, and Baba's been emphasizing that a great deal, whatever it is you're doing through the day, if that's not in line with Srimad, then of course it's not going to work. It's not going to be possible to have yoga. Connected very much with Srimad, two other things that are basic. My timetable in terms of Amrit Vela and also Murli. My Amrit Vela, there's a stage in which people feel that, yes, Amrit Vela is important, but there's other things that are also important. And so they give time to all the other things because we are creatures of habit and we are creatures of doing. And so the habit of doing continues in Brahman life. Am I right? Who thinks that the habit of doing continues in Brahman life? Some of you didn't raise your hands, but I think that you will agree. When you have time to think about it and reflect it, you'll say, it's true, it's absolutely true. So it means then that we're doing through the whole day, job, center, whatever it is, but it's action. And early in the morning, the body is aching and the mind has many excuses, and the mind is saying, well, I've got a long day ahead, I need all the energy and strength I can get, and maybe I had a restless night, I wasn't able to sleep so well, and so I need to have that extra hour. So what is my priority? I've come to Baba, and I came to Baba with a lot of love. Baba found me, true, but I had also been searching for Baba for a long time. I didn't know what to find, and so this is why it was the story of the needle in the haystack. I didn't even know who, what I was looking for, and so how could I possibly find? But now Baba's found me, and I found Baba, and so what is the priority? Surely the priority for me now is to be able to experience Baba. And if Baba has given Brahmins a specific time for an appointment, then that's the time Baba's going to be available to meet me and give me special experiences. When there's a very particular appointment that you have, a very special appointment, you don't arrive there 10 minutes late. Usually what you do is time yourself to arrive there 10 minutes earlier. And so in my appointment with Baba, what time do I arrive? Is it late or is it early? Am I there a few minutes before? Many minutes before, that's great. But at least a few minutes before, so that then I can just relax and come back to soul consciousness and then start the conversation with Baba. And so Amrit Vela, and whether I've made it a priority in my life or not, I think it's a question that we have to ask ourselves. And it's surprising how many Brahmins, really good Brahmins, but today Baba said even good Brahmins don't have good yoga. So that must have been a question in your mind. How come Baba's saying that they're good children, and then on the other side they're not even having yoga? Well, I think it's because the good children, yes, they're active in service, they're doing all of these things, but they haven't yet realized that the essence of Sangam Yuga is to be able to experience a relationship with God. Something that cannot happen at any other time through the cycle. And many years have gone by, and we've come to Baba towards the end of the cycle, towards the end of Sangam Yuga even. And so at this moment, how much time and attention am I giving to yoga and making my connection with Baba an absolute priority for my life? That's not to say you don't do other things. Yes, of course you do other things. But you're able to do them all the better if you've given yourself the time for yoga. Have you been in the situation where traffic control music comes on and you've got lots of things to attend to, and so you feel at that moment, 3 minutes is very important. I'm in the middle of something, let me get on with it and let me finish it. And meanwhile, traffic control music is playing, and you take it as an excuse to finish off various other things. And of course the time has gone, it's finished. But taking the opportunity for traffic control, really to be able to clear the mind, connect with Baba, and able to experience Baba at that moment. There's a question that Didi Manmoini used to ask us. We'd be having small groups meet with her in the evenings at 4:30 in her room, and it was a handful of Baba's children from abroad, and so to divide up into groups of 4 or 5 and have yoga with them, imagine Didi used to give drishti to each one. It was very powerful. But Didi often asked us a question, were you listening to the traffic control music and the lyrics that are coming on? Or during traffic control, you're actually not listening to the sounds around you, but you're really focused on God, and you're taking God's light and might. It was something that many people would get caught out on. No, traffic control music is not for the purpose of enjoying the music. It's not for the purpose of just relaxing your body and just taking a stretch break. But traffic control is to stop the traffic in the mind, and through this to prepare the soul for more and more yoga. So my timetable of Amrit Vela, what it is I do during traffic control, and then thirdly, of course, the Murli. I love you, and it means that I'll treasure every word that you've said. I love Baba. Do I have the value of the Murli and the recognition that each one of God's versions is invaluable? And more than that, it's for me. Like Baba said, it's not a question that God differentiates and says more inheritance, less inheritance, and creates the number wise, but we create the number wise for ourselves through our own effort. I didn't count how many times Baba used this expression. It depends on your effort. It depends on your effort. Many times through the Murli today. And so, my effort, as I hear the Murli, Baba is speaking to me. When you hear the Murli, is it that sometimes you remember so and say, well, I hope he heard the Murli. Baba was talking about this, that, and the other. But he should have heard the Murli so that he could understand what he has to do. So am I remembering Baba and the Murli? Am I remembering that human being? And so Baba is saying, forget about images, forget about faces. Just simply remember the versions that God has spoken. And when you remember those versions, it'll be much easier to stay connected with God. And so these are some of the practical things to take up if I want to deepen my yoga. And if there's anything that's out of place here, then it is definitely the yoga that's going to get affected. You want to concentrate, you even have made the time to concentrate, but you're not able to concentrate. And so then, if that's the case, then don't just say, oh, I must have some Maya. Today Baba threw out the word Maya completely. But what I have to do is to say, okay, this is a lesson to pause and check. And check through all the different things that I've mentioned. Check all the 4 subjects to see that everything's carrying you forward in the right direction. So the background, all these different aspects of preparation of the self for a timetable in which I can have good yoga. Baba's been talking to us about drills, and I know that usually what happens is that when Baba's first mentioned a drill, we love it. And especially since Baba now conducts the drill himself, it's a very powerful and beautiful experience. And when we leave Madhuban, for a little while we remember those drills. And then somehow as time goes on, we forget about them. And it goes to the back of our memory. It's not there in the foreground anymore. But in fact, the drill is the way in which Baba's training us to focus our mind and to not allow us to get distracted, to not let us lose our concentration. So my experience is that the more attention I pay to the drill, the easier it is to have yoga. And this drill that I loved especially this time because it works on two different levels. Baba spoke about it and then made everyone stop and practice a drill at that time. And the one that touched me the most was, what do you have to do? You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is to be the point and remember the point. That's it. Be here and remember Shiv Baba. And there's nothing else in the way at all. So if I've practiced this, maybe during traffic control several times a day, then when I come to sit down to have yoga, then it's going to be easy to let go of other things and just focus on I, the soul, and Shiv Baba. The other aspect of this drill, apart from teaching me concentration and being able to invoke Baba and call upon Baba at any time of need, Baba often says, you don't use me. It's true. When I feel a bit of upheaval, a moment of silence, connect with Baba, and Baba's love will definitely reach you. That's a guarantee. And so one is the connection of drill and concentration power, but the other is the connection of drill and stopping waste thoughts. We've been reading earlier, a little bit earlier, the 72 Murlis. And I'm talking about the revision course Murlis. And I've been surprised to see, because I hadn't remembered that it was since then that Baba's talked about it, but in the Murlis of the 70s, Baba's talked about giving up waste thoughts. I think it was last week's Murli that we were reading, and the question of why, what, and how, all of these things, the door that opens Maya and allows Maya to come in is why. Why me? Or why did this happen? Why should it be allowed to continue to happen? So all sorts of questions related to why. And when I ask the question why, not only is it that my happiness and contentment goes in the way that Baba spoke of last time, but also the waste of energy of my mind means, and time of course, means that when I want to have yoga and just still be focused and connected with one, my mind's in the habit of racing. And so the mind doesn't know what time it is. I know what time it is, but my mind doesn't know. And so whenever it gets a chance, it's going to start generating and creating all the memories of the past negative thoughts. That's the way it is. It's Kali Yuga, the end of Kali Yuga. And Brahman souls are very, very tired by the end of Kali Yuga, and they don't have any strength left anymore. Do you agree? By the end of Kali Yuga, we'd really lost all our power, we'd lost all our strength. And so that situation where waste thoughts come and I'm losing whatever little power I've accumulated, that's definitely going to interfere in my yoga. And so something's happening, I like it, I don't like it, it's irrelevant, it's happening, it's the reality. And so let me learn to flow with the reality, instead of getting stuck with anything from the past. And when I keep moving with reality, then I'm conserving my energy. Think about swimming and how when you're swimming in the ocean and the wave comes and you glide along with it, you surf along with it. It's easy, no energy expended on your part. And if the wave is coming here and you're trying to swim the other way, it's a hard struggle and not so comfortable. Same thing, drama's going along in a specific way. And if I can shift it, if I think that things are not right, then I can talk about it to my seniors, I can talk about it to others who are further ahead than me on the path. And if I talk to them about it, maybe the big mountain I've created in my mind gets finished. And then, yes, I can become quiet. And it'll be easy to connect with Baba and have yoga. Where I'm not doing that, I'm going against the drama's going in one way, and I'm trying to say, no, this is wrong, and I want to go in the other way. So who's right? Am I right? Or is drama right? Is drama right? I'm not getting a response. And I know why. Because so often there are scenes that happen in drama, and our thought is, it shouldn't be like this. It's not right. And so that stage where I am able to have a full stop and no more waste thoughts, it takes practice. And then in that practice, something happens, full stop, I'm connected with Baba, and I see the beauty in what has happened. I see the benefit in whatever it is that's happened. And so no loss of energy, but rather a reinforcement of my faith in Baba. And so learning to put a full stop and Baba's drill. If a situation has come now, and then I tell myself, full stop, full stop, full stop, is it going to work? Unlikely. But if I've been practicing the drill, when it's benevolent circumstances, not difficult circumstances, but things are okay, it's fine, but a full stop. I'm developing the power that's going to help me at a time of need. And I don't know when that's going to come. It might come to me personally, individually. It might come to a group of us. It might come to the country that we live in. We don't know. Things are going to happen from nature. You know, Baba's comment on Japan was, what you're seeing is nothing. This is small. What you're going to see in the future is going to be much, much more. Just take a moment to visualize that scene. And I didn't see television and the news coverage there, but I saw a photograph recently in a paper. And I don't read papers regularly, just from time to time. But it was a scene of quite a bit of devastation. And this was yesterday as we were traveling. And the sister with me said, do you think you're ready to face such a situation? I'm going to ask you, are you ready to face such a situation? Ask yourself and check yourself. And what I thought for myself was that the accumulated power of yoga, that accumulation is surely going to help me at that time to stay connected with Baba and not to be troubled by the scenes that are going on outside. And yes, it doesn't mean that you're hard, that you don't notice the suffering of people, that you ignore it. No, yoga means that you have compassion. Yoga means that you have empathy. And if it means cooking food for 100 people, Yes, let me do it so that they have something to eat. Because Baba's told us, keep everything in stock. You don't know what's going to happen. And so, like Dadi, she had to feed several hundreds of people over a space of a few days when the floods had come in Pune, where she lived. And so the door was open. Whoever needed help and food was able to come in. So what's going to be my stage? If today I'm practicing the full stop, just for a moment, just becoming very still and connecting with Baba, of course, drawing that power. The stillness helps me stabilize my mind. Then I connect with Baba and I draw that power within myself. And that power then is not just for me, but that power is to be able to share with others so that they too feel the benefit from God, even at a time of great distress. And so I found that the practice of drill of the 1 minute, silence, total silence, nothing else, is an invaluable tool to deepen our yoga. The other tool that Baba has often talked about, and Baba talked about it before, and then we practiced it and then we forgot it, and now again Baba reminded us of that. The 5 different forms. I, the being of light. I, the deity soul. I, the worship-worthy soul. I, the Brahman soul. I, the angel. And so practicing those forms, and you'll find that through the day, as you practice this, definitely your stage is one that's up above. Which is a day that doesn't bring tests? Is there a day? Sangam Yug, and we want to clear all our karmic accounts of 63 births very quickly, in the space of not even one birth, but a very short time of that one birth. Then that short time has to be used very, very, very well. And so, as I practice this through the day, even for a few minutes, the impact of that stays with me the rest of the time. And then yes, Amrit Vela, Baba's going to give me beautiful experiences of those stages. Not just my thinking about it or churning about it, but my practical experience of all of this. And so the drill of Mansa Seva, fix a time for yourself which is easy for you. Baba's not giving us a prescription, Baba's telling us the method. Baba mentioned that just as you fixed your time for Amrit Vela, you've also fixed your time for traffic controls. In the same way, fix your time for Mansa Seva. When the Dadis first surrendered, there wasn't a fixed time for Amrit Vela. Mama would wake up at 2:30, but then the time became fixed. Traffic control. For many years, Baba was telling us, pause and remember Baba. And then it finally got going in 77, and the whole system of traffic control was initiated in Madhuban and then spread across the world. It's telling me that traffic control is different, Amrit Vela is different, and the time for Mansa Seva is extra. It's not just part of my Amrit Vela. It's not just part of the traffic control, but we fix time for these things. And now what we have to do, and Baba said do it personally, according to what's comfortable for you. I have to fix a time when I'm going to practice Mansa Seva. A few minutes here, a few minutes there is fine, but that's not going to strengthen my yoga. but very specifically, whatever time. I fixed that time for Mansa Seva, and again, that's a very, very powerful training for me and my fortune. God can touch the world. He doesn't need me to sit in yoga for 10 minutes to serve the world. He can touch the world. But for my own benefit and my own practice, my own fortune, my development of yoga power, that's what I need to do. And so if I'm observing the drills, I know that my yoga is going to be deepened and strengthened. My conversation with Baba through the day as a friend, that's going to strengthen my yoga. My deep faith in Baba and the family and Rama is going to strengthen my yoga. So these are things that you know of from the Murlis, but I'm just putting together a few things to be able to remind you. But if I'm practicing these things, then yes, the time of yoga is going to be a powerful time. The last thing that I want to say is, one particular thing I've been practicing that's been very helpful for me is I very consciously am aware that there's a lot of things from the past that I still have to settle. I don't mean the past of this birth, but many, many births past, all the account that Baba's talking about. And I'm very aware that I haven't done enough tapasya to be able to burn away that rubbish, that account. Yoga and the way in which the alloy is removed, now that's the fire. And so, especially Amrit Vela, what I've been doing is thinking about just remembering Baba so deeply so that truly there's that fire that will burn away the burden that I've been carrying. And so, at different times, different aims, but currently this is a very specific aim that I sit with. Not just that I want to say to Baba, I belong to you, I love you, or good morning, yes, fine, all of that's okay. But very specifically, this is the time in which I want to finish all the rubbish that I'm still carrying within the self. And it then has to be a deep, intense fire, not just a little bit of yoga, or remember Baba and a deep experience of peace, which is not really yoga, but no, a very specific fire. Om Shanti. Let's have powerful yoga now. And what I'll do is speak out my thoughts for just the first few minutes, and then we'll get deep into yoga and you can stay there. Aware of the self, the being of light, I can come in front of Baba, the Supreme, the Almighty. Baba is my father and my mother, and Baba allows me to be very familiar with him so that I can be very close to him. But I also remember that Baba is the Almighty. And in the presence of the Almighty, God's light and might reaches me. Baba's light, the light of knowledge, is able to show me how far I have traveled in this journey, and also how much further I need to go. The light of knowledge reveals the things going on within the soul. And where it is, I need to take Baba's might in order to change. Baba's light and might supports me. Changing my sanskars becomes possible with Baba supporting me and helping me. Without Baba's love, I would not have been able to see myself. I would not have had the courage to look into myself. Baba's light is the light of love. And Baba's love gives me hope. The love gives me courage. Baba's might reaches me, and I change. Baba's might gives me power. I know that I need all the powers in my life and I see which is the power I need the most. The light of knowledge, the light of love, and these vibrations spread out into the world. Baba's might removes all the burden of many, many births. Baba's light and might transforms me but also this light and might reaches every place on this planet I stay with Baba so that the light and might may reach the world.